We recently put up a film on the Totally Awesome Fishing Show that I didn't think would be that much interesting to general fishermen, but it turns out it is. It was catching carp on a fly rod. In fact, it was catching quite big carp on a fly rod. We had, I want to say, 4,000 views inside 24 hours. Now, in other countries they do a lot of fly fishing, saltwater and freshwater. Here in the UK, we tend to do fly fishing for trout, predominantly, and salmon. One assumes to a lesser degree, because there's less places to fish for salmon. But fly fishing for coarse fish, our freshwater fish, I think it's coming on really strong. Now then, I really, when I put the film up, could have gone into a lot more depth about some of the flies that people are making up. Let's take a talk with a guy and see if he does know what he's talking about and shows you some of the different flies you can now get. So there's no doubt indeed that carp fishing with a fly rod is really coming along, and a lot of people in the UK are changing to it. It's not just a cult thing, more and more people are going to try and take a carp out on a fly rod. Look, it's just another way of fishing, but it is something of a challenge. So I thought I'd check up the world record listings, because here in England we think we're carp king. No, our country's not for big fish. How about in Italy? This is a fly rod. A 42-pound carp was taken on a 16-pound tippet. Now, for those who don't know, the tippet, imagine you got the rod ring, there's your tip of the rod, it comes down with a fly line, which gives you your casting weight. Then we have what's called a leader, let's say 9 feet of either straight mono, let's call it 10 pounds for argument's sake, or you can have a tapered leader, which is thick at the top and goes down to a tippet. The last piece is what we call the tippet, what it breaks at, which would be, say, 10 pound here, could be 30 pounds up here. A tapered leader just means when you cast it unrolls easier, much smoother, it unrolls in a nice curve. So that's the tippet. So the world record listings have different classes: £2, £4, £6, £8, £12, £16, 20, all the way up. Different world records in different categories. So the 16-pound tippet, wow, a 42-pound fish, oh, that's a big one. A bit big for me, actually. Anyway, think that's not big. Okay. In Alabama, in 2005, a weaker tippet, 12-pound test. Now that's about what I'll be using, 12-pound leader here. We call it leader, they call it tippet. I can't believe they've got to get the specs on for this one. A 62-pound grass carp on a fly rod. That's some catch, isn't it? So you can see, big fish can be caught on a fly rod. I'm going to show you a few flies that some enthusiasts gave me, and some that Sid Night ties. Just have a look at them, give you a guide, might get you guys thinking out there, those fly rodders, and you might want to, expand, experiment, and that's what fishing on the Totally Awesome Fishing Show is all about. So here's a couple of boxes of flies. These ones I was actually given by a guy over there that was fishing on the water, who was a carp on flying dedicated enthusiast, and it's really interesting some of the patterns they've got. And this one is Sid Knight's one, which is the standard one I use, the deer hair one that I was talking about. Okay, these are the standard ones I use. These are large ones I've got Sid to tie out for me. And as you can see, they are that deer hair, and they've been, if you can just see that, we call them the hedgehog fly. Put it on my finger there. Ouch. Call it the hedgehog fly. Clip it back and you can colour it down to what you want. And that's very, very, very buoyant because there's lots of air trapped in each, I think they call it a follicle, would you? I don't know. Sounds polite. Each fibre of that deer hair is full of air. So that's what makes deer hair very good for floating. So that's what I've been using. But these guys are really moving ahead with different types of flies. Now, they've got just here. There we go. I'll put that one. Let's see if I can get it on my finger. Ouch, 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 ouch. There you can see that one is the same thing as the deer hair. Look, same thing as this. A little bit darker. But it's got a sight indicator of, I guess, polystyrene or some sort of foam it's foam on the top. That's purely as a sight indicator. So when you're casting in a glare or even in a dark patch, you can either use, look, one like this that's tied with a cork to represent a chum mixer biscuit that's hard, I would imagine. And if that's cast into, let's say, a very shiny, glary surface, you might not see it so well. So they've superglued, I guess, on there a black sight indicator. What a clever idea. And then Conversely, this one is a standard clip deer hair one, and that one's for casting, I guess, in dark shadowy areas. It gives you the white indicator there. Different ones here, I suppose for using, I suppose that could be looking like a piece of bread, that one, or I don't know, a piece of crust. But this one's very, very hard. It's not soft, whereas the deer hair is soft. This is hard. Another sight indicator on top. There's a white one. One assumes that's the bread. That represents bread, as I explained to you. You can just get them bleached back like that, and that's got, I guess, a sight indicator there. So there's a huge variety there of different flies, bread ones, hard mixer biscuits, soft mixer biscuits, trout pellets, big deer hair. There's more than enough to shake a stick at. So you can easily take a crack at catching a big carp on a fly and have a very good chance of getting one. There's a lot of small commercial fisheries around that will give fish, let's say, 3, 4, 5 pound average, maybe into low double figures, and occasionally the odd bigger fish. There's no reason at all why you can't chum those carp up on the surface. And the benefit with this type of presentation is you can cast individually to the fish you want to catch. You don't just have to cast at anything like a float goes under, a buzzer goes off, a bite alarm, anything like that, and you don't know what's on the end. With fly fishing, you do know what you're going to catch because you are looking straight down the barrel at it. Have a go fly fishing? Me? I think I'm going to talk to you about some sea fishing for the sea fishermen out there. This one's for. As a sea angler, and I like my beach fishing, I just can't get my head around the fact that wrasse love lugworm. Now, they can't see many lugworm in their environment. Surely that around reef, around rock, it's all hard, it's all concrete. There can't be too many lugworm there, but they love them. And on a recent trip to Ireland, we got blown off from boat fishing. I was over there with Mike. What could we do? How could we salvage something from a disastrous trip? Well, all you sea fishermen know about the wind. It can really mess it up, not just from the boat, but from the shore as well. But by getting hold of some fresh bait, fresh lugworm. Now, when I say fresh, I don't mean go in the tackle shop by all means. I always advocate getting them in a tackle shop if it's tough digging anyway, or you're travelling a long distance. But you cannot beat what they call, down in Sussex, fresh outs. That's bait that has been dug, washed, not even really wrapped in paper, just taken fishing straight away. The juices are all in the worm. They're very, very fresh. They say in lugworm, years ago, 50 years ago, they were telling me in the magazines were there, were the magazine. I think it was just about one magazine when I was a kid. Amino acids, that was the key. Lugworm were full of, or had a lot of, amino acids. Well, I'll tell you what, amino acids on lugworm got me out of trouble big time. Shore fishing from a blown off trip in Ireland, this is what it got me. Well, here we go, guys. That shows you this is the sort of stamp of fish you can catch if you just take a bit of trouble and dig your own lugworm. Out on Galley Head in Ireland, probably going to first of several, and they love lugworm out here. Just hooked in the top lip. It's a breezy old day, but it was well worth taking the trouble to get the bait. So dig your lugworm, keep them in paper to keep them dry, and you've got the option, not just wrasse like this off the rocks, you can use them beach fishing, bass, flounders, plaice, anything. A great bait and a great fish. Well, guys, I dropped down in a gully close in, the tide's falling. I can't get back down there with that drop net, it's too risky. Hoping it's going to hang on. Yes sirree. There we go, a lovely golden wrasse, that one. And you can see actually the lugworm just tucked in the corner of the scissors there. That is a beautiful fish. Get it straight back, and you know the saying here at the Totally Awesome Fishing Show, are we going home yet? This one is. Well guys, just making that move from that other beach we were fishing really paid off. Fishing for bass up there. I've got sandy on for bass. I got as much lugworm as I get on the hook. I honest to God thought I'd lost the fish in a snag. We had to climb down the wall, get it in the drop net. What was it? It's what we call a Totally Awesome a result. Look at the size of this wrasse. It's like a green carp. Look at the size of that wrasse. That's the result of moving at the last minute. It was literally, well, a last minute hunch. I thought we'd try this place. It's by a bit of an estuary coming in, freshwater stream, and you know, we lucked out big time. Let's get it back. So there you can see the benefit of having fresh bait for you sea anglers out there. If you can take the trouble to go out and dig it, use it as soon as you can. Of course it will keep 2 or 3 days, lugworm wrapped up if you change the paper and dry it. But far better to use it fresh. I've had it pointed out to me in cod fishing and had my butt whipped big time several times by guys that have got fresh outs, fresh, kept it in the actual fresh seawater. Man alive, it's a good bait. Anyway, what about, this is all round fishing, guys. Something for the fly fisherman, for the trout angler out there. Well, we can't forget those because I'm one of them. We often get asked here on the Totally Awesome Fishing Show, being all round fishing, especially with the fly fishing, I guess younger anglers, I want to try trout fishing in a river. Is it easy? The answer to that is quite simply, no, it's not easy. Fishing in a lake or a still water isn't moving. You just have one thing to consider, the wind. If you're on a river, you have the current flowing down to consider, the weed, the changes in pace in the flow, and you've still got on top of that, the wind. And in, well, one recent trip, what a horror story. I was on a trout fishing expedition. Ah dear. It started off a fantastic morning, blue sky, fabulous. The river was in pristine condition, or so I thought until I got there and was told July is weed cut time. They do several cuts of weed through different rivers, but they can't just cut weed any old time because the trout fishermen are a bit pernickety about it and they want to get the weed out of the way. Cut so they can see the fish and cast at them, but B, you do not want to be able to not fish because of the amount of weed in the river. Well, I just got there after they had the weed cut. Bits of weed coming down made it very difficult, but my opinion is try and avoid the weed cut if you can afterwards for about a week or maybe even 2 weeks, because I think where they cut all that weed, not only does it maybe upset the fish because it's moving them around and disturbing them, but don't forget, if you're way upstream, there's going to be lots of insects in larvae and grubs and everything in that weed that they're cutting. So it must be a massive menu coming down the river for any trout living there. Therefore, if he's eating a lot subsurface, he's unlikely to rise to the surface to take your dry fly or your nymph. That's purely my thoughts on the weed cut. However, I'm still stuck with this day fishing down on the river. Well, it started blowing like you wouldn't believe. And of course, as most fly anglers will tell you, it depends on the direction of the wind, whether it assists you in casting or whether it is actually in your face and messing up the fly going down the river. And then it starts to rain and drizzle on top of that. You'd think I'd be on a total blank, but no, I persevered. As all trout fishermen do, a great deal of perseverance, and this is how it panned out. Well, while walking along the banks here, I come across an egg just hatched. Now, does anybody know what species that is? I feel something large like a pigeon. No, not a chicken. What do you think that is? I'm guessing it's a pigeon's egg, but maybe some of you bird watchers out there can tell us exactly what it is. My problem is there's no bacon and fried bread with it. Well, I cast and I cast and I cast and I changed flies and I changed even more flies. I changed everything except my underpants. I could not catch a trout in that river, but luckily there were a couple of lakes just close by. A mere walk across got me to them, and of course once I was on the lakes, no wind, no weed, no current. Bingo. I just changed to when all else fails, and I've cut it right back. And what would you think I've caught? A perch. And it's on Sid nights when all else fails, so that lovely flash of me, but I cut it way back. This little perch, got his fin up for you as well. There we go. Pretty little fisher, look. And that was fast stripping. Hard to believe. And I've bumped a trout off as well. So we're close, but as yet, no cigar. There we go, guys. This is what I'm talking about. Fish hooked up. I don't know where I'm going to get it out, but casting across the other side of that weed bed where nobody else casts. I've got to get the fish out yet. I know you're going to see it over there. It's right on the other side, a real long cast. One of Sid Knight's damselflies. He's buried. Oh, he's buried in the weeds going left. Oh, geez, he's really going. Not bad fish, looks way over 2 pounds. Fingers crossed, I can keep him on the camera for you. On a tough day. Come on, baby. And this is just one section. It's out of that howling wind up on the main lake. Just shows you, I've virtually given up. Oh no, slack line. It's down here. Tell you what, he's really pulling his weight. Not as big as I thought he was, but a nice looking rainbow on a tough day. They all feel better when it's a tough one like this. Howling wind. You know, I actually think that the wind and the change in air pressure when it's bad weather comes in, I think it puts predators off, and it puts a lot of the other carp, tench, what I call ground fish if you like, on the bite a bit. Just easing him in, you can see, no, he's 2.5 pounds. That's a 2.5 pound fish. Nice looking rainbow. Don't fall off. Oh, yes please. Got to be close to 3 pounds that one, guys. Pleased with it, tough day, just goes to show. That long cast over the weed bed where nobody else had cast to, got me this fish. From there, I went on with more success and hooked another fish in exactly the same spot, even though it was starting to, well, rain quite heavily. Now it started with a drizzle, you saw early on, it was blue sky first thing in the morning, then it's deteriorated, the camera's covered over with my hat, I can't film with the big camera, I've got a handkerchief and my hat trying to keep the big camera dry, so I'm just down to the head cam at the moment, and a small one, but what a bit of action when I least expected it. You just can't tell with fishing, and I think that's the beauty of why we go fishing. To be honest, all you anglers know, nothing's guaranteed. Finally guys, a smile from the angler. He'd actually got among the fish by going back to the lake. He'd been water whipped on the river, but the lakes he was still able to catch a fish on. It was a tough day that turned into a good one, so don't give up, get out there, put the time in, and hopefully Luck will be with you. So there you can see, obviously a tough day. I had wind, I had rain. My God, I had the weed cut coming down. I had trout that just had lockjaw because I guess they were choked to the gills with all the food and insects coming down from the weed cut. But by moving across to the lake, I'd salvaged something. So therein lies the moral, kids. If you're a youngster or even an older angler thinking of trying the rivers, by all means try them. They will be difficult. You will find it hard. If you want to get a bit of a boost, go back to the lakes, catch a couple of trout, and then tackle the rivers again. There's nothing more satisfying than catching a lovely river trout and hopefully releasing it. Hope you've enjoyed this little sessions. There's coarse, there's sea, there's trout. I'm going to try and do some more. Let me know if you enjoy it. I'll do some more for you. Keep watching the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. I reckon the greatest all-round fishing show on the planet.